Live from West Anchorage High School, KTUU Channel 2 and the League of Women Voters present Decision 2012, the Youth Vote Forum.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks so much. Well, good morning. How are you? Come on. A little more excitement. Good morning. That sounds like a 2012 youth vote. So thank you for welcoming us today. I'm one of those blessed people on stage today who's not running for office. You're going to have a couple of us. Me as governor. You have Lieutenant Governor Meade Treadwell. I understand Senator Lisa Murkowski as well. None of the three of us are on the ballots this year. So perhaps we get a chance to hear from you and answer questions related either to decision-making or leadership or choices you're making. But let me just talk for a minute about how important the 2012 youth vote really is, because it's your voice. 1867, anybody know what happened? We're celebrating it today. Today is Alaska Day. It celebrates the purchase of Alaska from Russia by the United States of America. By 2 votes, that purchase was ratified in the U.S. Senate. Just 2 votes. By 2 votes, you missed being part of a land that was involved in the purges of Russia. We missed Stalin and Lenin. We missed the concentration camps. We know freedom today because of 2 votes cast in the U.S. Senate in 1867 and everything that has gone on since then, from our days as a district to our days as a territory and now to our days as a state. It's about our voice being heard. It's about your voice being heard. It's not just about voting, though. It's about your voice being heard daily. I want to tell you just a quick story. Many of you know that 3 or 4 weeks ago in Homer, there was a party, high school youth involved. A 17-year-old was sexually assaulted while 40 or 50 of his peers stood by, did nothing, took pictures of it, posted them on the internet. My question for you is, will your voice be heard in those kinds of moments? Will you step up? Will you heed the call to courage? Step up on behalf of your fellow teenager, your fellow citizen. I'm telling you, your voice can be heard not only at the ballot box this November, if you're 18 or older, but it can be heard daily as you stand up for other Alaskans around you. That's your challenge, to make your voice be heard. Not to just sit passively by, not to let others make decisions for you, not to make decisions out of fear, but to step forward as courageous young Alaskans. And I'm looking forward to answering some questions from you, so let's get to that. Of course, now where are the mics? No.
Thank you, Governor Parnell.
You bet.
My name is Conrad Koshik, and I'm a senior over at Diamond High. I was selected to ask you a couple of questions from my fellow students. And right off the bat, we'd like to know what you hope will be your lasting legacy to Alaska.
I think my lasting legacy to Alaskans will be a love for Alaskans as a people, and also that I will be known for clearing paths of opportunity for you. When I came in as Lieutenant Governor, I told my staff that our job was to banish fear and to create paths of opportunity so Alaskans would have a chance at a future together. Whether that's education policy or resource policy, whether it's the way we deal in a trustworthy fashion with each other. For me, I want my lasting legacy to be about you and how we cleared paths of opportunity for you.
Very interesting. Governor, what are the greatest influences in your decision-making process?
The greatest influences, you know, there's the background that we each bring to the table in our leadership positions, and then there's also kind of the framework for decision-making. And my background for decision-making, thankfully I had a good home life. I had a mom and dad who taught me to tell the truth, to admit when I'm wrong, take the consequences and move on and learn from mistakes. But beyond that, as governor, there are a couple things that are really important in terms of a decision-making framework and what's important. First off, in any leadership position, you've got to understand the authority that you've been given, the trust that you've been given. So for me, that authority comes from the Constitution, Alaska's Constitution. So if you understand that, you also then have to understand the laws that you are bound to uphold. We raise our right hand and we swear an oath of office and we say that I will support and defend the Constitution of the state of Alaska and the Constitution of the United States of America. That is the overarching framework, is whether what I'm doing is in accord with the Constitution and the laws of this state. And what does that mean? That means that I'm acting in your interest. I think that's where the intersection of my early life with my parents meets my life today as a professional in the workplace. And that is that as a leader, you have to ask yourself, am I really acting for the people I represent, or am I acting for myself? If we have leaders that are acting for you, as I try to do every day, I think that's the basis for every decision, is acting in your interest.
That's interesting. Going back to what you just said about us being your lasting legacy to Alaska, brings me to the Anchorage School Board's plan. It's called Destination 2020, and it calls for a 90% graduation rate by the year 2020. How will you support students in achieving this goal?
That is also our State of Alaska goal. So we are aligning ourselves as a state, as an entity, as your representatives in state government, to that goal of 90% graduation. When I started as governor 3 years ago, and even as lieutenant governor before that, our graduation rates were below 66%. One of the ways that I have tried to change the paradigm of education and change the incentives for you all so that more of you and your peers will graduate is by changing the incentives in the education system. It's basically saying, in order for our kids to compete, in order for you all to compete in a global economy, you've got to get a better education. You've got to want to stay in school. You've got to have a reason to. And the Alaska Performance Scholarships is something that took me and our administration 3 years to get past the legislature. We passed the criteria the first year. With the legislature, we worked and got funding, $400 million set aside for that fund. And then the third year, we finally got the fund fully created, and now we have a sustainable way to fund Alaska Performance Scholarships. I think that by allowing you to earn scholarships in state, in high school, and use those scholarships in college, that is one way that we will help change the graduation rate and move us to a 90% graduation rate. It's not the be-all, end-all, but it's certainly a positive step forward in that.
Step by step, absolutely. So, going back to your high school days, did you envision yourself as a governor back then?
No, no. No, you know, I did envision myself in public office or public service in some form, but I did not envision myself as governor. But I think that there's a lesson there for you all, and it really is in the choices you make. It's really about keeping the doors open for you to be available for service, wherever that is, whether it's in business, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in the political life and the political realm. It's about getting that education, sticking to it. Last night, I was on the plane coming from Homer, and I was sitting next to a 7th grader who was from a small community outside Homer. And I said, what are your dreams? What do you want to do when you grow up? And he said, I want to be a helicopter pilot. And I said, well, tell me about that. And he described why he wanted to fly. And I said, look, you know, the Army National Guard, the Air National Guard will pay to train you to be a pilot. But here's what you got to do. You got to keep that opportunity open by staying in school. And when classes, you know, they do. They're not all exciting, are they? No. But I encouraged him, I said, if you stay in school, you study hard, you get the help you need, keep that goal out in front of you. And that's, that's just a huge part of being a leader and making sure that opportunity is available. And it's your job to make yourself available by making those good choices now.
Okay. Thanks. And so, final question for you, Governor. How can Alaska lead the nation in natural resource development, and how do you envision Alaska's position in the global economy?
You know, as I think about Alaska, I think back to statehood. 1957 and 1959, in the final pitched battle for statehood. My father was a soldier at Fort Richardson at the time. I wasn't born at that time. And he remembers, and many Alaskans today still remember the promise that was made us that, look, we're a population of about 700,000 people. We're far away from the rest of our country's citizens, but we have a resource base that we can sustain ourselves with. That was the promise of statehood, that Alaskans can use our resources to sustain ourselves And the way we do that is by sustaining ourselves and marketing it in the global economy. I just got back from a trip to Japan and Korea to market Alaska's gas, because if we can sell large quantities of gas in the Pacific Rim, we can make cheaper gas available for Alaskans, because the more gas you carry on a pipeline, the cheaper each molecule is for an Alaskan to heat their home or to fuel their business. So Alaska's natural resources can lead the way to us having a better future together, and that's part of why natural resources and resource development is a high priority for our administration, because that's how we are to sustain ourselves. That's the promise of statehood. That's our future here. I appreciate your time, and thank you so much for allowing me to visit with you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today, Governor. Thank you.